Frédéric Chopin was a Polish composer and pianist of the Romantic era. He wrote primarily for solo piano and was born on March 1st in 1810 near Warsaw. He is often referred to as the poet of the piano and developed astonishing talents at a young age in piano playing and improvisation. These skills were encouraged through his study of Bach and the Viennese classics with Wojciech Zwinny, and of harmony and composition with Joseph Elsner at the High School of Music, attached to the Warsaw Conservatory. He gave his first piano concert at the age of 8, and had a composition published when he was 15. Soon after this, he began a series of concert tours for which he wrote and performed some of the more conspicuously virtuosic works for piano and orchestra, such as the 2 concertos and Krakowiak. He completed his musical education and composed his earlier works in Warsaw before leaving Poland in 1830, less than a month before the outbreak of the November Uprising that would create years of political turmoil in his homeland. And after a brief period in Vienna, he settled in Paris. Chopin concentrated his creative efforts solely on the piano, making him unique among the great masters of his time. His music is imbued with the spirit of the Polish nation and has a distinctive musical language. The main areas of his work are narrative, harmonic, piano concerto, polonaise, and mazurka, as well as nocturnes, ballades, etudes, preludes, and more. Chopin was a child's prodigy and perfectionist that was very conscious of himself and his performance. When everyone was applauding in admiration of his performance, a young Chopin sadly told his mother that he felt bad because his cufflinks didn't match his suit. His character impacted much of his later life and works. The part of Poland in which Chopin was born had been incorporated into Russia, and he was legally a subject of the Russian Tsar. But a Russian was the last thing Chopin would have called himself. In the context of post-revolutionary romantic politics, as we have seen, nation was no longer synonymous with state. Indeed, Schumann, in a later review, noted wryly that if the mighty autocrat of the North, that is, Tsar Nikolai I, who had put down a major Polish rebellion in 1831, knew what a dangerous enemy threatened him in Chopin's works, simple and pretty as many of them were, he would forbid this music. Chopin's works were guns buried in flowers. Chopin thus became the first major European composer to be actively touted abroad as a nationalist. And because this nationalism is in deep mourning, Schumann wrote, alluding to Poland's tragic fate, it attracts us all the more firmly to this thoughtful artist. Furthermore, as Warsaw did not have a big publishing company, Chopin and his dad both wanted him to have better resources to expand his career. At that time, he composed 2 famous concertos, his E minor concerto and F minor concerto. His concertos were written 1829 to 1830, and the E minor concerto was first performed in 1830. Chopin's 2 concertos were written 1829 to 1830. The concerto in E minor was published in 1833, and his F minor only in 1836. The slow second movement of the second concerto, F minor, which has been said to sound like a love letter, was written by Chopin for Konstancja Głogowska, a 19-year-old soprano and fellow music student, to express his strong feelings which were left unconfessed, until he wrote to a friend and confidant through letter. Chopin had intended to go to Italy, but violent unrest there made that a dangerous destination, so he resolved to go to Paris, when Chopin, on the 5th of October 1831, he would never again be able to return to his homeland. He resolved to go to Paris, and on the 5th of October 1831, he would never again be able to return to his homeland, Poland, until his death. He settled in Paris at the age of 21, where he spent the last 18 years of his life, giving only 30 public performances during this time, preferring the more intimate atmosphere of the salon. The musical fashion in Paris in the 1830s was dominated by virtuosity and spectacle, with pianistic displays from virtuosi such as Liszt, Thalberg, and Hirsch being immensely popular. Chopin grew dissatisfied with the expectations placed on performers by audiences interested only in technical exhibitions, and virtually renounced his concert career. Instead, he played in the salons of the wealthy aristocrats and gave piano lessons. His compositional style consequently became more intimate, while remaining technically demanding. Chopin later formed a friendship with Franz Liszt and was admired by many of his other musical contemporaries, including Robert Schumann. Chopin shared Schumann's ambivalence. He felt his Polish patriotism deeply and sincerely, and also traded on his exotic origins, his Sarmatian physiognomy, as Schumann put it, affecting Latin, when it came to promoting himself and his works in European society. But he also very consciously modeled his art, and particularly his craft, on the most universal examples. As Schumann called him the pupil of the first masters, Beethoven, Schubert, Field, and went on enthusiastically to proclaim that the first molded his mind in boldness, the second his heart in tenderness, and the third his hand in flexibility. It was probably Schumann's own repressed nationalism that caused him to overrate Beethoven's formative influence on Chopin, though it was not an insignificant factor, and prevented him from noticing how Chopin's florid melodic style had borrowed from Italian bel canto orchestra, of which Chopin had been an enthusiastic connoisseur even in Warsaw. More recently, Charles Rosen has rightly emphasized Chopin's devotion to Bach, whom he regarded, the way Schumann regarded Beethoven, as the great founder. While, unlike Mendelssohn, he rarely imitated Bach directly, and as a Catholic probably dismissed Bach's vocal voice from consideration, if he even knew of it. Chopin's early study of the well-tempered clavier deeply influenced the contrapuntal precision of his style, turning him into perhaps the most fastidious and polished craftsman of his day.